everybody and welcome back to the United Stand. Could Sheikh Jassim be back in the race to purchase Manchester United Football Club? Some reports about his interest still ongoing in buying the whole of Manchester United. Get your thoughts in down below. Would you still want that to happen? Is it even a possibility? Also, updates on Xavi Simons, Jonathan David and Matheus Cunha. Manchester United getting closer and closer to signing Matheus Cunha, and as well, Frimpong to Liverpool. Should we be going in that deal? Ornstein's just dropped that. That's very close to happening. How does that affect Manchester United? The money from the Champions League, getting into the Champions League, how does that affect our transfer window? And get in the comments down below, because we're going to do this towards the end of the show. You've got to prioritise positions for Manchester United, because we're not going to have all the money in the world to fix the whole starting 11. What are your top 3 priority positions? Because Manchester United are working on a tight budget, as the budget for the summer has been revealed. Where do we put that budget? Is this why we're going cheap on Liam Delap and in other areas as well? Is this why we're not going for Jeremy Frimpong, even though it's a good deal? Because we have got priority positions and we've got a tight budget to work with. Get your comments in, hit a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. Good morning, everybody. It is me on the morning show today because Goldbridge had quite a few beers out in Manchester last night. I was good. I had a couple, but I was good. I got to bed. I'm here for the morning show. Someone's got to do it. So get your comments in, keep me company, and let's go through the news. But there's quite a lot to get into. I've seen people in the comments straight away, before I even went live on the video, talking about Sheikh Jassim and this is never going to happen. And that was my initial response when I looked at this report as well. But we are a news show. And as a news show, we report on the news that is coming out surrounding Manchester United. And this is from a pretty good source as well. So, if you remember, the book that was written, The World's Biggest Cash Machine, Manchester United, the editor of that book from The Independent, Blackhurst, has spoken about Sheikh Jassim's ongoing interest in purchasing Manchester United. Now, the initial reaction will be never going to happen. But if the regeneration project doesn't get off the ground surrounding Old Trafford, that's going to hurt Sir Jim Ratcliffe's plans with the Glazers to boost Manchester United's value. Also, we know how tight money is. We're not even we're making our manager pay for his backroom staff to go to the Europa League final. Money is tight. We have not got all the money in the world at Manchester United. The Glazers and Sir Jim are tight. Financially, we are struggling. If things don't turn around and projects don't get off the ground, such as the regeneration project like they're counting on to get Manchester United financially stable, they might have to resort into selling the club. That might happen. So if Sheikh Jassim's still there, it's something to take note of. It might be well into the future, but it is something that could still be on the table. So former Manchester United takeover hopeful Sheikh Jassim reportedly remains interested in purchasing the club despite losing out to Sir Jim Ratcliffe last year. Despite the finality of the decision for Sir Jim Ratcliffe to purchase a minority stake, former editor of The Independent and author of The World's Biggest Cash Machine, Manchester United, The Glazers and the Struggle for Football Soul, Chris Blackhurst, has told TalkSport that Qatari continues to be keen on purchasing the club at some stage in the future. This is what he said. And this is Chris Blackhurst. He wrote the incredible book. If you've not given it a read, you really should. It's The World's Biggest Cash Machine, Manchester United, The Glazers and the Struggle for Football Soul. It's a great book. He's got authority and he's very well in the know when it comes to Manchester United and the ownership as well. He has said the Qatari bid was very real, genuinely real. Remember when Sir Jim Ratcliffe said in an interview, and I understand it was sort of said tongue-in-cheek, but it's very kind of dangerous to make these accusations when there's Manchester United fans that were genuinely very hopeful of him taking over the club purely for the fact it's full ownership. Do you remember when Sir Jim Ratcliffe kind of made that sort of half joke that he didn't even know Sheikh Jassim was real? And it's dangerous to do that because some people might genuinely take that as fact and might be questioning themselves whether Sheikh Jassim was actually real and whether that bid was real. Well, Blackhurst has said the Qatari bid was very real, genuinely real, and I think there still could be interest from there. They have not gone away. That is what I keep being told. As long as United remain the biggest club, and that depends on the reach and the social media reach and the sponsorship deals. And then when he was asked on how much the Glazers are wanting for Manchester United, Blackhurst replied, I think it has changed over time. It was certainly $6 billion at the time when Sheikh Jassim and Sir Jim Ratcliffe were battling for control. Ratcliffe paid about $1 billion, but he got no control. They, the Glazers, have the control. They want a lot more than that, and if they were to get a new stadium, that would enhance it even further. Whether that is realistic or not, I don't know. Again, I thought this chapter was firmly closed, and 95% of the chance it is firmly closed. Like I said, it's a news show, we report on the news. But you never know what could happen. A couple of things. The rumblings that there's been clashes behind the scenes between the Glazers and Sir Jim Ratcliffe, because Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants to do things a certain way. He got control of the footballing side of things, but we know how much of a grasp and grip Joel Glazer has on that football club. He is massively involved in the day-to-day runnings of Manchester United, despite what anybody says. Sir Jim Ratcliffe spoke in that interview saying the Glazers are over in America and they're just kind of letting things run. Joel Glazer, I know for a fact, is very much involved. This is why it always took us so long to get deals over the line. When everyone used to say Manchester United would take, 30 days to do a transfer that Liverpool would do in 2 days, it's because the Glazers have so much control over Manchester United. They would constantly go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They'd have to sign off on anything, any stage of the negotiation, going with one offer, and then if there's a counter offer, and if there's this clause, every single element the Glazers would have to sign off on. I know this. I've spoken to very, very good journalists that are very much in the know around Manchester United, and they said that the Glazers were crippling for staff members to work under, for negotiators and recruitment that was in place at Manchester United. The Glazers were crippling to work under because they were trying to get things done, and every single little element of deals they were doing, they had to go and get it signed off from the Glazers, and sometimes they won't get replies for a while. It would take a while, and then they'd think over and over and over, and they'd think so long and hard about decisions, the Glazers. So there has been rumours, it's not been outwardly said, but there has been rumours that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos's side have clashed a little bit with the Glazers over certain decisions that are being made at the football club. There's also the fact that they're very heavily reliant, which was what was said there by Blackhurst, on the regeneration of the stadium. That is the plan to make a lot of money out of Manchester United and to boost the sale value of this football club. And that we don't know if it actually is going to get off the ground. After the big protests at Old Trafford, suddenly a couple of days later, Neville's doing a regeneration project and doing the voiceover for a new stadium, and it seemingly came out of nowhere. It really did seemingly come out of nowhere. And I'm not saying believe wholeheartedly everything I say, but I know people that work in and around the club that say nobody had any idea that regeneration plan was happening. Like, shareholders got an email, a day before? This is what allegedly I was told. And everyone was quite confused where that came from. It felt very, very, very rushed. And nothing's really come of it since. So everybody got very excited about the new stadium and what that could mean for Manchester United. But whether they'll be able to get it off the ground and when that will happen, who knows? So the money's tight. Sir Jim Ratcliffe did say in an interview that they would have run out of money by Christmas if he hadn't come in. And he is a billionaire. He's massively, massively wealthy in the assets that he owns. But there's a certain level of wealth that you need to run a football club of Manchester United. And a lot of people would come back at me and say, Manchester United should be self-sustaining. We make more than enough money. We don't need a massively wealthy owner. That is true. We are self-sustaining. We do make massive amount of money. But the amount of debt that the Glazers have put onto this football club and the amount of financial ruin that they have done to this football club, the book title says itself, a cash cow. They have absolutely rinsed this club and completely sucked all of the life out of it. And we are in financial difficulty because of their mismanagement of our finances. So it is going to be tough. I do still think Sir Jim Ratcliffe is going to continue, and I don't think there's any chance that within the next couple of years he's going to say, you know what, I'm out, let's sell the full club. And also, it's not really his decision, it's the Glazers' decision, because they own the football club. They own the majority stake. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has a minority stake, and with that minority stake, if the Glazers decided they wanted a full sale at any point, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I'm pretty sure, has to go along with that. I'd have to get that completely clarified. But what I can remember, Sir Jim Ratcliffe would have to, sell the full club. So this could still be on the cards, and it is something to take note of, that Sheikh Jassim and the Qatari bid is still lurking in the background, especially when in his interview as well, his interview with Gary Neville, I remember Sir Jim Ratcliffe saying, he's not going to wait around if things don't go the way he wants them to, which is bringing Manchester United back to the top of world football. He won't be afraid to walk away from it. He consistently says, whether you believe it or not, he's not doing it for money. He genuinely wants to get Manchester United back to the top. And it's a vanity project. He wants to be the knight in shining armour. Sir Jim saved Manchester United. I think he was a bit taken aback by some of the reactions he's had from Manchester United fans. I think he's a bit taken aback by, songs that have been sung about him and, the names that he's been called. And he did seem to be offended by that in the interview that he did with Neville. So you never know. If things don't work out, he could think to sell. Whether you would want that, get that down in the comments. I have always wanted a full sale of Manchester United Football Club. I hope that Ineos can turn things around, and I hope that they can manage things on the footballing side to get us back to the top. But I think with the lack of funds they are offering and the fact they are stripping us back rather than injecting money in, I don't know if that's the way that you get back to the top when you are the biggest football club in the world. I think a lot of actions we have took have been the actions of a football club that, if you want to be the biggest football club in the world, you've got to act like the biggest football club in the world. And we just don't in a lot of what we do. Like, even the fact that Amorim paid, I think it's a class act by Amorim, but the fact that Amorim paid for staff to go to that Europa League final, it's just not how a top club operates. The way that we go about things is just not how a top club operates. And I understand we had to trim the fat, we had to get rid of unnecessary costs that were hurting Manchester United financially, but there's a line, and I feel like we've crossed it in many different areas. But anyway, this is the talk at the moment, and get your comments in. I'm reporting on a news story, I'm reporting from a credible source, and I just wanted to get it into the comments and get it into the chat as well, because I feel like a lot of people would have looked at this morning and said, no chance, it's over. As soon as Sir Jim Ratcliffe got the minority stake, that was it. And that's not the case. There could still be a full sale in the future if things don't go the way that was planned. I really hope that Ineos, Sir Jim Ratcliffe can turn things around and Manchester United do become what we all want them to come, and that's the biggest football. Well, we are one of the biggest football clubs in the world, whether we're winning or not, but winning on the pitch, in the Champions League, in the Premier League, that's what I want. It's not going to happen overnight. It is going to take time. I get that. But we have gone backwards in the year that they have been at this football club, and, sometimes you've got to move backwards to move forward. Sometimes you've got to suffer, like we have done with Ruben Amorim. So I'm not just saying, it's never going to work just because in the first year we've gone backwards under Sir Jim Ratcliffe's control, footballing control under Ineos. It might work in the future. I hope it does. But it's good to know that there is an exit plan for the Glazers and Sir Jim Ratcliffe. If things don't go right and they do decide to sell up, Qatar is there with wanting to buy Manchester United, and we know the absolute insane wealth that they have. They were going to pay off the full debt. They were going to make us debt-free. It was instantly going to be a new stadium and regeneration project. Instantly, money was going to be pumped into Manchester. It doesn't mean that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos can't get the stadium up and running. It doesn't mean they can't get Manchester United back to the top eventually. But if you would have got Sheikh Jassim and his Qatari bid in, it would have meant all these things happened instantly. Instantly the debt's gone. Instantly a new stadium is being built that is worthy of a team that is worthy of Manchester United. And I love Old Trafford to death. I love it to death, and it is a special place. But if you want to be the best performing football club in the world, you've got to have a stadium that is of the best performing facilities. You've got to have the best performing training facilities. That would have been done instantly. You know, we would have had wealth pumped into the football club, and all these things can help in terms of how much money you can spend as well. I get FFP and PSR are still there, but these factors help. You know, sponsorship deals that you can do with an ownership with them sort of connections, it would have massively boosted Manchester United. And what I'm trying to say is it would have put us on a way quicker process to getting back to the top. You can still do it, but it's going to take a lot longer of time under Ineos and what they're doing under Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And that's if it happens. And it's not guaranteed. It never is guaranteed, no matter how much money you have. But money in football massively, massively helps. So it's good to know that that still could be there. Tracy Taylor says, hi, don't just Sir Jim or the Glazers, full sale only. Yeah, let's get some of your chats in, because I have been speaking for a long time there. But I just wanted to get across the message that is currently being reported about the ownership situation. Kenneth Grant says, welcome to the United Stand Members Club. Lee Anglim says, Beth, wouldn't David be the cheapest striker rather than Delap? We could use 30 mil on a midfield. He's on a free, just pay the wages and agent fee. Lee, we were talking about this before I went live. I was talking about it with Goldbridge actually, and Jonathan David is one we're going to move on to, so I'll speak about that in a second. But by the time you've paid the wages that Jonathan David probably wants from being on a free, and the agent fees and all the extra add-ons that he would want, it'd probably work out very similar to Delap, to be honest with you. It'd probably work out very similar in terms of finances. Nates041 says, hey Beth, he also said that Todd Bowley purchasing Chelsea at the prices he did made the Glazers hesitant to sell to Qatar and wanted a higher price. I saw that as well. I watched the whole segment. Yeah, that is unfortunate. Basically, the Glazers, if they were ever actually going to go for a full sale, we don't know. That is what they advertised as. I do think they are always wanted investment, to be honest with you. I think the Glazers saw what they could do years ago and the money they could make with a regeneration project, a new stadium, and never wanted to let that go. They are all about money, and they know if they can get investment for a new stadium and a regeneration project, the club could go from being worth, it was actually, you know, totaled up to be worth around 4 billion, wasn't it? But they wanted 6 billion, that's how they valued it. But it could go from being 4 to 6 billion to, they think, around 9 to 10 billion, which is just ridiculous figures. It's astronomical. So I don't actually ever think they wanted a full sale, because I think they know. Goldbridge did a brilliant show about it, about the letters that they'd wrote to the council, and they knew about the possibility of the land and building the new stadium a long time ago. They've just not had the money to do it. So I think their plan was to always get investment and to do that and to try and get the new stadium and regeneration project up and running, and not having to pay for it out of their own pocket as well. It's absolute mastermind behaviour. And as much as we don't like the Glazers for how much they've bled this club dry and ran it into the ground, what they've done financially for themselves is off the scale. In terms of the amount of money they've sucked out of this football club. And if they manage to get the stadium up and running through investment and not even having to pay out of their own pocket, like it's incredible really, like how they've manoeuvred that. So I never actually think they wanted the full sale, because of they know the money that is there if they get the stadium. However, if they did think, you know what, let's just cash out, I don't think we're ever going to get this stadium up and running, and they did think, you know, we could do a full sale, and they genuinely were going to take a certain price to sell the full club, that definitely did rise when Todd Bowley bought Chelsea. Because they believe that Manchester United is a bigger club and is worth more than Chelsea, and Todd Bowley did pay over the odds for Chelsea Football Club. There is the argument that Chelsea is in London, but Manchester United is still, you know, Manchester United is worth more than Chelsea, so that kind of did skew the Glazers' vision about how much Manchester United is worth, and that's where they got their 6 billion valuation from. Keel Robinson said we should just contact local MPs to reject the project. There's no guarantees they will accept the project. There's no guarantees. I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe's connection, and this is what made him so attractive to the Glazers, his connection to a lot of very important people and very powerful people within the UK, massively appealed to the Glazers. MPs, Manchester, all of that. I think it massively appealed to the Glazers. I do think that, but there would be some. Let's get it straight. You know, the government might fund the regeneration of the surrounding areas to Old Trafford. Qatar and Sheikh Jassim were actually going to fund that themselves, by the way. They might accept to funding the surrounding areas in the regeneration project, but I very highly doubt they're going to fund an actual new stadium. I know that's what they're pushing, because they're pushing the whole Wembley of the North. It can be used for other things. It can be used for, you know, the national team, etc. And that's why the government should invest into it. I know they're pushing that, but I would be gobsmacked if they actually funded a new stadium. The surrounding area, the regeneration, I understand, because it's, you know, elevating Manchester and it's elevating the Northwest. I get that. But the actual stadium, for Manchester United's benefit, I think you'd get so much kickback from other footballing fans that are paying tax, thinking, why is my tax going to funding Manchester United's new stadium? As much as I want Manchester United to, you know, be the best and have the best facilities and have the best stadium, I would struggle to see how they could get the actual funding for the actual stadium through the government. The surrounding areas and the regeneration, you could get that, but for the actual stadium, I'd be surprised. Trey Warren says, it's never going to work with no financial backing from the owners. The Glazers and Ineos have killed this club off. Keep getting your thoughts in and keep getting your comments in. Got a few comments coming in saying Europa or bust. Well, that is what Ruben Amorim seems to be saying, isn't it? I mean, keep getting your comments in. And remember, get your super chats in, because we're gonna circle back to this towards the end of the show. Top 3 priority positions for the summer. The budget for the summer is not as big as you think it is. Remember Ruben Amorim's quote. He actually thinks it'd be better if this team wasn't in the Champions League, because he doesn't think they're good enough to compete for it. He didn't say this outwardly, but this is from what Ruben Amorim said, to put it in simplistic terms of how I have interpreted it, this isn't a matter of fact. This is along the lines of what he says. He doesn't think this team is good enough to compete in the Champions League. It'd be better if they didn't have the Champions League, because he needs more time in the training ground to instill his message and coach and train the players. However, we cannot afford to not be in the Champions League. We have to be in the Champions League. He says, with no Champions League football, this is really bad. We are really bad. We're in a really bad position with no Champions League football. He was also asked what was more important, a trophy or the Champions League. He said the Champions League. Why? Of course, as a manager, you want to play in the best competitions, but it's for the money. It's for the investment. He knows if he doesn't get Champions League football, he's going to be working with the same set of players come next season, and not much is going to change. He can obviously coach him. He can work with him in pre-season. I'm not saying he needs, 10 signings of like 100 million each. I'm not saying that. He can obviously work with the squad. There's only so much you can work with what you've got. There's only so much you can work with what you've got. And he knows he'll be in the same situation. Vultures will be circling because he's not won the Europa League. He won't have Champions League football. And he'll have a squad that isn't good enough because we've not had the financial capability to back him in the summer. And he'll only have a year left on his deal as well. And he would be in trouble. I wouldn't want him to be, and I don't think he should be, but he would be. So that's why Champions League is so, so important for Ruben Amorim, because he needs the investment. And I hear so many people say, Real Madrid or Barcelona would never accept the position that we're in. Amorim might need time, but we shouldn't accept this. Them sort of teams would never, have the squad that we have. Let's be honest, our squad is absolutely nowhere near it needs to be. You can't turn water into wine. Ruben Amorim needs investment, and that's why Champions League football is so, so important. I mean, just on that, by the way, apparently, and this has come out from Kieran Maguire, winning the Europa League final could be worth over 100 million in additional broadcast revenue to Manchester United or Spurs if they have a successful Champions League campaign. An extra 100 million just in broadcast revenue. And that's forgetting, the match day revenue that it would generate and the sponsorship revenue and all the other attributes that come with getting Champions League football when it comes to business of running a football club. It's absolutely huge. On that, it is super, super important. And on that, where would you pivot to in the summer transfer window? So we have got some transfer news that I will bring in before I get onto that as we circle towards the later stages of the show and get all your opinions in and get your comments in as a community. Smash a like on the video if you've not already, by the way, everyone. So this is coming from Fabrizio Romano, and this is a name that is, I feel like, been circling around every transfer window since I've been on the United stand, to be honest with you. And it's Jonathan David. Official from Fabrizio Romano, Jonathan David confirms he's leaving Lille as free agent at the end of the current season. David has a formal proposal on the table from Napoli to join on a free transfer. Deal not sealed yet, which means other clubs could enter the race, but it's looking very, very likely that Jonathan David is off to Napoli on a free transfer. Do you think Manchester United should try and hijack this deal? Are you frustrated that, considering we are on a budget in the summer and we've got a lot of areas Manchester United where you need to improve on, that we've not taken a punt on Jonathan David on a free transfer? I'm going to be honest, I couldn't give one that is going to Napoli. No disrespect to Jonathan David, I literally couldn't give one. I don't think he's the striker. He's not at the top of my list. And he's not someone would be going for if we had to pay money. Therefore, I don't think you should just be going for a player because he's free. I get you've got to be smart around your moves in business and you've got to build a squad. But I've watched Jonathan David on multiple occasions and he's failed the eye test for me. He might go to Napoli and do really, really well. He might do. But for me, he's failed the eye test and I'm not absolutely sold on him. I think there's better options out there. And it always worries me when nobody else seems to be going for him. Like, Arsenal need a striker, why are they not there for him? Chelsea need a striker, why are they not there for him? Why is Liverpool going to be going for a striker because Darwin Núñez is going? They've been linked to Ekitike and they've been linked to Isak. Why are they not going for him? Nobody from the Premier League seems to be wanting him and he's on a free transfer. That always rings alarm bells for me. So, he might go and do well, but he's been circling every transfer window and he's not the player that I would be, wanting to go all out for. I get it's a free, and so many people would say we should go and get him on a free and an Osimhen and a Gyökeres and a potentially a Delap. But it's not going to work like that, is it? Because one, Jonathan David's probably going to cost near enough the same as what Delap's going to cost. And you'll be like, Beth, but Delap's 30 million release cost, Jonathan David's on a free. On a free, you have to pay massive agent fees. He's going to want a big contract. He's going to want a signing on fee as well. So when you've paid all that off, it probably comes to the same amount as going paying 30 million release clause for Delap and the wages that Delap wants, which is rumoured to be around 100 grand a week. He's currently on 20 grand a week at Ipswich. Hence why Ineos want him. Cheap wages and a cheap transfer fee. And young as well. It fits all the boxes. They absolutely love it, whether you think it or not. I'm going to talk about Victor Osimhen in a second, but it'd probably work out at the same sort of price. So when you look at that, it's like, it is going to cost you a bit to get him in. It's not going to be a complete, free transfer because you are going to have to pay the signing on fee, everything else. It'd be interesting to see what Napoli pay, actually, to be honest, to get him. And as well, you're going to need someone else, right? Are you going to be able to sell Højlund? I don't think so. I think the most you're going to get for Højlund is a loan obligation to buy. If you were going to invest in two strikers, you'd need at least one of Rasmus Højlund or Xerxes to go. Now, Xerxes staying. I want Xerxes to stay. I genuinely see a lot of potential in Xerxes. I really like him. Xerxes absolutely staying. You're going to bring someone else, whether that be a Delap, an Osimhen or Gyökeres. We don't know. It looks like it's going to be Delap. So that's two. And you've got Højlund potentially either still there or out on loan. You're not going to bring in a fourth. You're just not. And then also Chido Obi. Chido Obi's got massive amount of potential and it's 17. He's the youngest player to start a Premier League game for Manchester United. He's someone to watch who could be developed next season. So you're not going to go and get 4 as well, to be honest with you. Maybe Chido Obi will go on loan, I don't know. But from what I've seen of Chido and what I've heard about him, I think United want to continue to develop him in and around the first team. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. So, yeah, Jonathan David going to Napoli. I'm not sat here crying into my pillow. I'm not going to cry myself to sleep. It's just going to be an end of a transfer saga that's been continually brought up on the United stand. Do you remember when we used to do the interviews with Romano on the channel? And I've done a few of them. And always, it felt like in every single interview, it'd be like, Jonathan David is a name to keep an eye on. Jonathan David, Jonathan David. Eventually the Jonathan David saga is going to come to a close from Lille, and that can wrap that up for Manchester United as well. We've got a chat in saying Chido will benefit going on loan like Ahmad. He probably would benefit from it massively, to get used to the physicality. Like a championship loan for Obi would be fantastic, and the Sunderland loan for Ahmad was fantastic as well. I'd be all for that. I would be all for that. But next up on the agenda, just quickly, I'll bring this in really quick because I want to move on to Xavi Simons and the update on him. This was from Romano on Matheus Cunha. No changes on Manchester United and Matheus Cunha deal. Talks remain ongoing with positive feelings on both sides. The deal remains at advanced stages, working on details of the agreement. Would not be surprised one bit if this is announced after we win the Europa League final, maybe on the Friday next week towards the end of the season. Maybe after Cunha's played his last game for Wolves, you'll get the here we go. I think this deal has been nearly wrapped up for a long time now. A couple of weeks ago, Romano said, we're nearly at here we go. Then it went dead silent for weeks. Apparently, Arsenal tried to get in there with Berta because of his connection with him at Atletico Madrid. I respect Cunha even more for saying, no, I want to go to United. He wants to win trophies. He wants to win trophies. People laugh because we're in 16th, but if you want to win trophies, where are you going? Arsenal or United? I get Arsenal way further ahead of us in terms of their team, squad, project, and they're so much closer to competing for a Premier League and a Champions League than us. But if you look at the last 5 years, if you want to win trophies, like United is the place where you win them. But yeah, I do think Cunha is ready to go. I just think they want to announce it when the time is right for both Cunha and for Manchester United as well. If we lose the Europa League final, it's like, don't worry everyone, we're signing Cunha. If we win it, even more of a high, even more of a buzz finishing off the season to signing Cunha. I do think he will come. I do think he will come to United. So I don't think there's any need to worry on that. It looks like it's going to be close. I think within the next 2 weeks, within the week of the season ending at least. And the season does end next Sunday. Crazy. Anyway, the next little update from Romano is on Xavi Simons. Let me get a couple of super chats in first from you guys. Super Arch says, Amorim is right, but we have to score more. 30-something games and Bruno and Ahmad are our top scorers with 8 for Bruno and 7 for Ahmad. Brilliant, brilliant super chat. Because I hear so many people saying, United, even if they sign this player, that player, they're still going to struggle to make top 10. The whole starting 11 needs to be changed. Honestly, I genuinely believe if you bring in 3 quality, and I'm talking quality, attacking players into that team, you're automatically competing at least in the top 8. And I know that still isn't our standards, but you're automatically in the top 8. And then if you then go and sign, a midfielder, which we desperately need, another goalkeeper, which we desperately need, I think you're competing not yet for Premier League, but you're competing towards the top end of the table. I really do. I don't think it's as bad as what people think. I just think because we have a complete lack of goals and quality in front of goal, it makes us seem a lot worse. Like, people won't want to hear it, and Amorim didn't even want to speak of it again in his press conference yesterday. But we have turned a corner under Amorim in terms of our goal isn't being peppered. We're not conceding shot after shot, chance after chance. It seems like any chance the opposition do get, it goes in. For example, Wolves, 1 opportunity, 1 shot with a free kick, 1 goal. Okay, yeah, we do concede chances. Every team concede chances. But remember under Ten Hag, we'd have the most shots faced out of anyone ever in the Premier League or something stupid like that. We'd continuously, our midfield was wide open, we're just getting battered, our goal being peppered continuously. That doesn't happen anymore. Our defence is pretty strong, we're structured, we don't concede as many chances. For example, look at us against Athletic Club. We don't concede any chances. We've still got bozo moments in us. We've still got individual mistakes in us. We still can have that, capitulation in games sometimes when we get in our heads. But overall, as a defence, we are better and we're not conceding as many shots. Our XG has gone up. We are creating XG. A lot of the times in games that we're losing, our XG is way ahead of the opposition that we've lost to. We cannot finish chances. Our attacking quality is on the floor. If you bring in some real players of real attacking quality, instantly you're scoring more goals and instantly you're in way better stead to compete. So I do think with the right signings, Manchester United's fortunes can turn pretty quickly. To compete right at the top, it's going to take a while, but we're in 16th. So there will be an improvement for sure. Keel Robinson says, players are good enough, they just can't play the system. Don't agree. Trey Warren says, it's never going to work with no financial backing from the owners, Glazers, Ineos killed off this club. I've done that one. And Lee Berman, welcome to the United Stand Members Club. Vibav Charla says, I think we should sign wingers, left and right wing backs and maybe a defensive midfielder. Give Ugarte company and give a chance to our forwards till December. I don't think our forwards needs to change. You don't... Is that a joke? Are you having me on? Someone dare just put that super chat in. Give our forwards a chance till December. Give our forwards a chance all season. They can't hit a barn door. Like, are you having me on? We need better forwards. I don't know how you can watch Manchester United and think that we don't need more quality in front of goal. Come on. I can't speak. I can't speak. Give our forwards a chance till December. Do you want Amorim to get sacked? Look, Garnacho's got potential. Højlund's got potential. You've got young players there with a bit of potential, but I'm used to seeing seriously good forwards play for Manchester United. I mean, just look up and down the Premier League. Most Premier League teams' forwards get into our front line. Like, come on now. We've got to get forwards in. I respect your opinion. You're entitled to it. I also don't get why you think we should sign wingers, because wingers don't really work in Amorim's system. We've seen that. Wingers will work as wing backs, like an Ahmad type, and creative forwards, wingers type forwards, inverted forwards like Ahmad. Ahmad works really well in the 10. He works well at wing back because he's a winger that also has that creative flair and has the defensive capability to track back. It's a certain type of winger. The winger like a Rashford isn't going to work in this system, so it depends what winger you're talking about. And then I actually agree with you. We do need a defensive midfielder. I do believe with that. I do believe that. I just don't know where we go. I'd like to go and get Wharton from Palace, but I just don't think there's a chance in hell. But there should be. At the end of the day, I know we're 16th. I'm like having a conversation with myself in the mirror. I know we're 16th, right? But there still should be an opportunity for United to go and get Wharton from Crystal Palace. There should be. He's a young English talent that just looks fantastic. Is exactly what we need. He's good under pressure, good with his back to goal, good at driving out from the back, press resistant. And everyone's like, Manchester United have got no chance, he's way too expensive. We're still Manchester United and it's Crystal Palace at the end of the day. Palace are in an FA Cup final. They could get into the Europa League. I hope to God they beat City and do that. But we could still go in there and sway Wharton to come and join Manchester United. You just have to pay the money. They're going to put a big fee on him, but I think we could negotiate it. Sometimes we talk ourselves out of deals that we should at least have a crack at. Rob, always United, member for 4 months. I agree, Beth. The good number 8 and Cunha and Ahmad behind a top striker, we can kick on. Thank you, Rob. I agree with that as well. Yeah, a lot of people talking about Wharton there. I don't get why we don't at least have a try on Wharton. I really don't. Like, give me one good reason why we shouldn't at least have a crack at Wharton. He's exactly what we need. I won't go into the whole Edison and midfielder type conversation again on this show. I spoke about it on the afternoon show the other day. I'm sure it'll come back up because we will get linked to other midfielders again. But we need that midfielder that can dictate the game and take the ball comfortably off the back four, play with his back to goal, progresses up the pitch, and Wharton for me is that. You need someone to complement the Ugarte, and you need someone to complement our other midfielders. And by the way, I was under the impression maybe a couple months ago that we should literally just prioritise the 3 forward positions and get a goalkeeper and maybe wait on the midfielder. But the more I've watched us the last, month or so, we definitely need a midfielder. We definitely do. With Eriksen going, Casemiro's not getting any younger, and Ugarte has got strengths. Of course, Ugarte's got strengths, but I don't think he's the full answer. We definitely do need to be going in for a midfielder in the summer. I have come round to that. I would agree with that one. Next up on the agenda, Fabrizio Romano has been talking about Xavi Simons. Xavi Simons is a name I know a lot of you guys like in the chat. I know a lot of this Manchester United community would love us to sign Xavi Simons. I also know that Fabrizio Romano himself said it's going to cost clubs upwards of 70 million euros, which I don't think Manchester United can afford, as well as the Cunha deal that's going to be over 60 million. However, this is the news on Xavi Simons, and Manchester United have been linked to him, and we've been linked to multiple number 10s, so there is a strong possibility we could sign 2. I talked before, we all agreed we need some investment into our attacking line. We massively need our attacking line to provide more for us. We need the quality to go up. Won't be surprising at all if we go for 2 number 10s. So the update on Xavi Simons is, Xavi Simons' decision has been made. He's ready to leave RB Leipzig this summer. Plan confirmed, as reported in recent months. He's ready for a new chapter with top Premier League clubs and Bayern all attentive to his situation. RB Leipzig aware of the player's plan. I like Xavi Simons. This is my opinion. Get your comments in. I like Xavi Simons. I think he's got quality. I think he's got potential. However, I don't think he's worth upwards of 70 million euros. I really don't. I also think if you're going to pay upwards of 70 million euros on a Xavi Simons, I'd rather go and pay 60 for an Adam Wharton from Crystal Palace. I think he would be more transformative than what Xavi Simons would be. I like Xavi Simons, I think he's good, but when you can go and get Ryan Cherky for just over 20 million, why are you paying so much excess for a player of similar positions and similar quality levels? It just doesn't make sense for me. I think there's more on offer in that number 10 role for a cheaper price. If Xavi Simons had a release clause of 40 million euros, I'd be all over it. I'd be all over it. But it's going to cost an arm and a leg. And he's young, he's got quality, he's got potential, but I don't think he's necessarily the right fit for what Manchester United need to do in this transfer window, because we're already getting Cunha. We know that signed, sealed, nearly delivered. That's going to be around 62.5 million release clause plus an extra 5 million, so we can do it in instalments. You're looking towards the back end of the late 60s, early 70 millions. You're also, looking at getting multiple other positions in. Are you going to spend upwards of 60 million on another number 10? I'm not too sure. And I don't think it would make sense. See you later. Are you still hungover?
I'm going to drive, so no, I'm not.
No, he's not. No, he's not hungover. He's not hungover. Get your comments in. That's Golbridge there in the background, everybody. So, on the Xavi Simons. Do you want Xavi Simons? He said no. I heard him. On Xavi Simons, I just think there's other options there in the number 10 role that we can get for cheaper. I've said it over and over. Mbeumo's only going to have a year left. Brentford are going to want to cash in. I think you could get him for around 50. I really do. Again, that's cheaper. And Ryan Cherky, another one. It's just over 20 million, his release clause. 21. Technically brilliant. It just doesn't make sense to pay all that excess when you're not really going to be getting much more out of the player. I also think as well, Xavi Simons probably has Liverpool written all over him. Liverpool have got money to spend this summer. We know they've got money because they didn't spend last summer. I think they only brought in... Did they bring in a backup keeper? And they also brought in Chiesa, who barely ever plays for them. So we know they've got money because they didn't spend last summer. They've won the Prem, and the year before that, They were willing to go and pay 115 million for Casado. That never happened. So Liverpool have got money, right? Premier League clubs apparently interested in Xavi Simons. He's got that Dutch connection with Arne Slot. I think he might end up going to Liverpool, Xavi Simons, to be honest with you. So I would keep an eye on that one. And Almac says Liverpool are getting Kirkes and Frimpong. They've got money. They've got money to spend. They could go again. Aki says, at present, many players won't prefer United. Until these owners leave, no chance we get top 5 for the near future. We must empty the stadium. Thoughts? Well, Cunha prefers United. I know not many will, and I get the point that you're saying. It is tough now. It's like, for me, it kills me inside that even if we win the Europa League and get Champions League football, United could go to Gyökeres and say, we want to sign you, and he might choose Arsenal. I can't fathom in my head a period in time where a player would choose Arsenal over United. It's a tragedy. It's an absolute tragedy that a player could choose Arsenal over United. So I get your point. However, I do think emptying the stadium, as much as I get the meaning behind it, and I was discussing this last night when we went for a United stand-like meal about emptying the stadium, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. There's too many people that come to Old Trafford, and I understand, but there's too many people that pay a lot of money and book trips to go to Old Trafford week in, week out for the tourism side of it, to go and see the stadium, to go and do the tour. You know, first time in Old Trafford, to go and watch a game. There's just too... I don't think the fan base would be able to do it. I mean, try, 100% try, and I'd be on board to try that. But I just don't see it being able to happen, unfortunately. Karen Mater says, hey Beth, what is your score prediction for the final? I can't wait. You're a bit early on that. You're a bit early on my score prediction for the final. Another discussion point of our United stand meal last night. You'd love to know the other discussion points. Can't say them live. I am worried about the Europa League final. I don't know, it could go either way. I think it's going to go to extra time. I think it's going to... I'll wait until closer to the final to do a score prediction. I keep toing and throwing on whether I think Spurs or United are going to do it. I think it's going to be close. I think there'll probably be one goal in it. I think United will do it, but I'm not going to give you a score prediction yet. I think it could be like a 3-2. I'll just give you one. I'm not saying it yet, but I think it could be a 3-2. That's the way I see it going. 2-2 going into extra time. Keel Robinson says, Beth, right now we struggle to play Manu, Garnacho and Xerxes in the system. Are they not good enough? I don't think Garnacho's good enough to be a starter right now. I think he's a super sub. I think he's got the potential, but I think that's how his role should be. I think Manu's adapting to the system. It doesn't mean he can never play it. He's adapting to it. And Xerxes is good in the 10 in this system, and I think he can play a striker in this system as well. I think he's just needed time to adapt to the Premier League and adapt to Ruben Amorim. So I do think obviously the system suits different players better, and that's always going to be the case. It's just like how different players suit different managers better. But I do think all of them players could have a future in this system given time and patience. I just think Garnacho isn't good enough to be a starter of quality. His output in front of goal right now. I think Garnacho has adapted to the system though. I think he's got a lot better at it, and I think he's improved a lot in terms of the way he plays the system. I think his overall decision making and output isn't good enough to be a starter right now. And like I said, with Manu's adapting, he's going to take time. And I think he's got to do some work off the pitch to maybe physically adjust to the demands of this system. But he's got the technical levels 100%. And Xerxes has played striker and 10 very well in this system. And a lot of people would argue if he was fit, would absolutely be starting that Europa League final. He would in my book if he was fit anyway. So yeah, that's my comeback on that one. We've got more super chats in. We've got Yashal Sinj saying, hi Beth, nice to have you on. What has been your favourite city/stadium in Europe during the current season? Have a lovely day. Yash pal, that is a great question. What has been my favourite city/stadium in Europe during the current season? Have a lovely day. Where have I been to? This season, my favourite trip has been, I would probably say, I'm not just saying this because it's where the final is, but I would say Bilbao. I would honestly say Bilbao. I think Bilbao is a city, and I think it's just maybe because I was there, the weather was great and the food's nice, and I really like the Spanish culture. That was my favourite, and knowing that the final could be played there as well. I think that's... Porto was good, but I got really ill after Porto. And that kind of skewed my memory of that trip. But I think Bilbao was my favourite city, and it's definitely going to be my favourite city if we go back there on Wednesday and win it. And do you think we have an advantage because we've already played in that stadium? Favourite stadium? I would probably say the San Mames as well. The San Mames. Can't really say it right. The San Mames, the Athletic Club Stadium. I've probably absolutely butchered that. But that stadium is absolutely fantastic. The atmosphere it captures. The Lyon Stadium was pretty good as well. The Groupama, I think it's called. But the San Mames one in Bilbao was great, and that's where we're going to play the final, and that's obviously a relatively new stadium, and the way it captures the atmosphere is top tier. So that would probably be my favourite, probably because of what's at stake with the final as well. James Cave says, congrats on controlling your alcohol consumption, Beth. What do you think of Semenyo potentially coming in as second number 10? Would be expensive. Yeah, you know what? Considering I'm the youngest one of the United stand, I'm the most responsible. Although, to be fair, in Dublin I had a few. It depends on my mood. It depends on the night. But I knew I had the 10 a.m. show and I had to be up for you guys. So, you know, you can still have a good time sober, and I do believe that. What do you think of Semenyo potentially coming in as second number 10? Again, good player. I think there's better you can get for the money. It's going to be around 70 mil. We can't afford to spend that. We can't afford to spend that, as well as the 60 plus on Cunha. He's a good player. I understand why clubs are interested in him, but there's other options you can get for cheaper. Alex Hulula says, Thiago Almada would be a good midfielder for us. I hear this community always talk about Almada, but it's just one that we've not been linked to, so I just don't think it's going to happen. Lastly, on the show, I said to finish off, I'm going to do my 3 priority positions, because Champions League is going to be crucial for the money that we get, and we could be absolutely strapped for cash if we don't. According to Give Me Sport, and you can never fully give a budget because it changes every summer, and we always get told a budget and then amortisation and paying in instalments, and the money we already owe on previous transfers always skews it. But Give Me Sport has reported that if Manchester United get into the Champions League and win the Europa League, God knows what will happen if we don't, we'll have a budget of 200 million to spend on transfers in the summer. Now, I'm taking that as 200 million to spend on the base fees of a transfer. So, for example, you know, 62.5 million for Cunha, even though we're paying it in instalments, I'd take that out of the 200 million. It doesn't really work like that, but I've kind of took it with a pinch of salt. So I'm looking at it and I'm thinking near enough 70 million for Cunha, 30 million for Delap, which is probably why we're going for Delap, for the cheapness of it. And then say if you get another 10 for 50, then you get a midfielder for maybe 40, maybe a backup goalkeeper for 10, that's your 200 million gone. And you've not got your win back in, you've not got the level of striking you maybe wanted to do. So it is still going to be a tight push for everything that Manchester United needs to do in one summer. You're not going to be able to completely build this team in one summer. It's going to take quite a few transfer windows, but we need to be strong, we need to be brave in this window, like Amram said. And I do think if we spend the money in the right areas, big improvements can be made, and for me that's the attacking areas. Quickly, Frimpong looks like he's going to go to Liverpool. This is a target that's been a target for Manchester United for a number of years, ever since Ten Hag came into the club. And when Ornstein drops it, it's going to happen. Liverpool advancing in talks to sign Jeremy Frimpong from Bayer Leverkusen, increasing confidence from Dutch international camp. A deal will be struck. 24-year-old right back keen on moves, so personal terms aren't an issue. 35 million release clause appeals to Liverpool. Liverpool always managed to get good deals. They did it with McAllister. They went and triggered his release clause. A fantastic purchase. I'm sure Frimpong will be a good buy for them as well. I massively think he suits our system more than Liverpool's system. I don't get where he's going to play for Liverpool. I don't think he's a right back in a Premier League back four. I think he's more of a right winger. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works. I think he's absolutely tailor-made to be a right wing-back in Amorim's system. And with a 35 million release clause, I don't get why we're not going for him. Because I look at it, I'm seeing a lot of the chat going off about comment of the week here. So I'm going to have to go and look at that in the chat. But by the looks of it, right, Manchester United aren't prioritising a wing-back. If you want more attacking threat, which is what United need, surely Frimpong's the one to go for. It's 35 million release clause, euros as well. But we're just completely not even trying. Maybe Amorim sees Ahmad as that wing-back and he's putting all his eggs in the Ahmad basket to convert him into that wing-back. And that's why we're going for 2 number 10s. We're going for 2 number 10s because Ahmad's going to be wing-back. That's why we don't need Frimpong, and that's why we pivoted away from getting a wing-back when we missed out on Kenda. Ahmad's going to be wing-back. Dallo and Ahmad are going to be wing-back. We know how much Amorim loves Dallo. And we're going for 2 number 10s. And that's why we're not even trying for Frimpong, because he sees right wing-back as sorted. And I've seen Simon Roberts say Ahmad needs cover too. Amorim absolutely loves Dallo. It's going to be Dallo and Ahmad. He loves Dallo. Dallo's not going anywhere. Just on that, by the way, let me read this super chat out first, because apparently... there we go. Robert McCormack can confirm Beth was wasted in Dublin. It was you. It was you, Robert. It was you. Going all... Are we getting a drink? Are we getting a drink? Don't come for me. Do not come for me. I was just keeping up with the rest of you. Tell you what, you can't keep up with the Irish though, can you? Jesus. Honestly, I had a sore head that morning, but I had a really good night. Especially when Ricky's, never seen Ricky get up so much to go to a bar. He's just up, down. You had to though. I'm not being funny. With that Dublin live show, when Danny with the script was singing you out, it was just it ended on such a high. You had to go and have a few scoops after that. Got a couple people frustrated. Amorim does love Dallo, and I think if Dallo's fit, he starts in the final, by the way. I've changed my tune after being at Carrington yesterday and seeing the media day. Also, Andre in the chat has made a good point. Ahmad and Mantato. Mantato and Camerson, both right wing-backs, well, right-sided full-back / attacking wing-backs in the academy. Both very highly thought of, both training with Ruben Amorim in the first team on multiple occasions. Camerson and Mantato, keep an eye on them both. Keep an eye on them both, because I think pre-season will be massive for them. I think they'll be looking to create a pathway for one of them to burst onto the scene as a potential right wing-back option. So that could be another reason why we're not going for a right wing-back. Camerson and Mantato, remember them names as well. Dank says Ricky tracks back more than Garnacho. Ricky definitely put more steps in going to the bar than what Rashford did in his last couple of games for Man United, I tell you that. You've got Tyus Young gifting 5 United stand memberships. What a legend in the chat. Oh yeah, my last thing that I wanted to say was, I think Dallo's going to be back for the final. Amorim said he's trying his best. He was doing individual fitness work at Carrington yesterday. We interviewed Dallo in the United stand. If you've not gone and watched that, go and check it out. Dallo and Mazraoui. Mazraoui spoke... I mean, Dallo always speaks well, but Mazraoui spoke like a true captain. I really liked the way Mazraoui spoke and the way he backs it up on the pitch as well. This is what happens when you sign, players from Bayern. De Ligt and Mazraoui come in and been fantastic because they know what it takes to play for a big club and the standards that are required and the levels you have to reach every single week. But Dallo seemed to have that glimmer in his eye as if he's going to be back and fit for the final. And I think he is. If he is back and fit, I think Amorim will start him. And I think that would be a huge, huge boost, because I know we all love Ahmad at wing-back, but I think Amorim in the Europa League final will be on the precautious side, and I think he'll revert back to, like he has done, against the Liverpools, the Arsenals and the Cities of this season, where we've had very good results with full-backs at wing-back, just to be on the safe side, because he's not fully had enough time with his team yet. I think he will revert back to that. And if that happens, and Dallo isn't fit, there is a strong possibility that you could have a back three of Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof. Now, oh my word, could you imagine? It's like Throwback Thursday on Instagram. Like, Lindelof, Maguire and Shaw. Shaw's from Van Gaal, and Maguire's from Solskjaer, and Lindelof is from Mourinho. Lindelof and Shaw shouldn't be still at the club. Shaw because of injury problems and Lindelof because he just should have gone ages ago. Maguire absolutely should start. I'm very pro Maguire at the moment. I think he's stepped up big time. I think he's still, you know, maybe not at the levels we need to start week in, week out. And if De Ligt was fit, I would be starting De Ligt. But I think Maguire has really shown himself and turned up for United this season and has played fantastically well in this Europa League campaign. He would start, but Shaw and Lindelof, it just say it out loud, Shaw, Lindelof and Maguire is a back three. It's mad, isn't it? Because Mazraoui would go to right wing back, I think. So if Dalot is fit, I think it's massive because he can start right wing back, and then you can have Maguire central centre back. You can have Mazraoui right-sided centre back, and then Luke Shaw, I would assume, would go left-sided centre back. By the way, if Luke Shaw is fit, he starts the final, whether you've got options or not, just because of his quality. And it's mad that in 2025 I'm saying that, but it's true. My preference would be to start him as a left wing back because I think he's fantastic as left wing back if he's fit enough. And it's a final. If he goes out and gets injured, obviously I don't want him to, but it's a final. It's do or die. And I think he's the best player for that area. However, Amrim did say he took Luke Shaw off straight after Euro, which I tweeted at the time, to cover that left-sided centre-back role because if Euro doesn't make it. We all want Euro to make it and be back fit. We all want De Ligt to make it and be back fit. But Euro, if he makes it back, he'll still be match fit because he's been playing regularly. So Euro could have a chance, but De Ligt's not going to start. De Ligt's not going to start. I don't think he'll be match fit. So you've got to look at them areas, and Dalot being back fit would be a massive, massive plus for Manchester United. Massive plus. Bjorn the Viking, thank you for your super chat. Tom Grant says, hi Beth, hope you're well. Just tuning in. Did you see Jonathan David as a good option, or should we go down the Delap, Osman, Gyökeres route? Tom Grant, rewind to the start of the show. Maybe 15 minutes in after I've spoken about Qatar, if you want to know about the Jonathan David. I've already spoke about it, so I'm not going to go over it again, but thank you for your super chat and your interest in the show. Last but not least, I'll leave you with this. This sort of relates to this super chat. Smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, get your comments in, but I'll leave you with this. Victor Osimhen, 39 games, 35 goals, 7 assists. Mic drop, I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching, everyone. Have a great rest of your Monday, and I'll see you on the next one.